Hi, Courtney. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Phoebe?
Good to see you. We're honored to have you in our podcast. Thank you very much. So today we're going to dive into the impact of AI in the workforce and work processes because, I can't limit you with your responsibility as a fractional COO, VP for operations, executive leader, SaaS service. I cannot limit you. I just wanted to just give you that freedom to talk where you are on how AI is impacting your services. And again, I was really thrilled. When I looked you up in your LinkedIn, I saw this caption. I turn vision and strategy into execution. That is very key.
It's
It's
huge.
very key because
Yeah.
most company they have a vision, but they can't connect it. They can't align their
Yeah.
strategy with it. And again, sometime again, somewhere there you start talking about most of undervalued problem or skill is helping people get clarity. Is
Right.
very most people today don't have clarity. There's so many things I pick. In fact, I'm happy I'm already following you because you're really saying what is very important, and those things are what most companies or clients overlook. So
Mhm.
we're really glad to have you here today. So we're not going to take your time. It's going to last. The podcast is just about 30 minutes. And we're going to look
Okay.
at, yeah, we're going to look at your background and the industry trend you're seeing. Then we'll discuss your current challenges and vision where you want savvy strategic partner. Then we'll also look at where you want your company to be in 12 months or your vision for the next 12 months and all that.
Mm.
Then we'll wrap up with exploring any next step if it makes sense, or if there's anything. And again, if there's any other thing you want to add to that, feel free to do that. Okay. Is that
Okay.
a good use of your time?
Yeah, it's great. That's great.
Okay.
Let's get rolling. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. So we're gonna dive in. So, can you share a bit about your role and how you fit into a bigger picture of a savvy strategic partner?
Yeah. So, Strategy Lab is the principal owner of that
Mhm.
agency, and then I get to partner with organizations like Savvy
Okay.
as a fractional to help reach them certain parts of their industries that they go after as well.
Hmm.
So there are organizations like Savvy. There's another organization called Cadence Co. I also work closely with them, and
Okay.
so there's two lines of business in terms of how I run. I've got organizations who are representing we have this body of clients and we want to serve them well,
Hmm.
but we don't want C-suite level people to be full-time W-2 for what we do
Hmm.
because most people can't afford that type of payroll, right? But they want the knowledge and the wisdom and the experience that comes to somebody who has. And
Okay.
so they found an opportunity in a way to take fractionals like me and
Hmm.
put that in as a line item to help them grow that line of their business. Now, that's the one side of what I do, and all of
Hmm.
this stuff is seasonal, right?
Yeah.
The other side of it is I work directly with CEOs and business owners
Hmm.
on being able to take all the components that I believe a true COO should be running and doing. And
Hmm.
they're different types of COOs, but I think the most effective ones are the ones who see the people, they see the process, and they see the product,
Yeah.
and in that order, right? And there's a way to go about doing that. And AI can be a leverage point for
Hmm.
success, but it can
Hmm.
also be really detrimental to how we
Yeah.
become disconnected from one another in those processes as well. But all
Okay.
that to say, the other side is where I go directly to a CEO or business owner, someone who is looking to scale, but they're not yet sustainable. And
Hmm.
they're having a very difficult time understanding the components. And that's that connecting where the overlap of vision and strategy is that little sliver is the execution.
Yeah.
And most CEOs, most visionaries, most business owners get so frustrated with their teams because they think their vision is clear. It's big, and how could it not be clear? They wake up from bed every day thinking about it, and it's what they eat, sleep, and breathe, right? But the rest of their team does not in that way. And
Yeah.
so we have to establish that if the mission is why you get out of bed, then the
Yeah.
vision is where you're headed when your feet hit the ground. And
Hmm.
the execution are the steps between your feet getting out of the bed and the
Hmm.
horizon where the vision is, right? We have to close that gap as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is with clarity. Right.
Okay.
And so it's not just a buzzword of something that we say because it sounds fun. Like it is truly getting crystal clear because to be clear is to be kind. So
Yeah.
what it looks like in this regard, Phoebe, is if I invite you and your family on a vacation and we're going to meet up with you guys on the vacation, the first question that might be out of your mouth is, where are we going?
Yeah.
Great,
It's true.
right? Okay, well, we're going to go to beach. Great. Well, you guys are beach people too. Maybe it's a theme park. We'll just say Disney, right?
Mhm.
Great. So we're going to Disney. You live on the other side of the country. I live on the other side of the country. How are we going to get there at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Who do we fly, right? Now we establish that, right? And we're answering these questions along the way because what we're seeing are milestones
Yeah.
that lead us towards the ultimate vision.
Yeah.
And what happens is somebody wakes up out of bed, we got this big vision, all the things, I'm excited about it. They start line item in their brain how it needs to go.
Yeah.
They go to their team, they spill out this big thing, and the team is just like head spinning, like, I don't know how to do that, or I did that at my last job, maybe like 10, right? All these things come up. Or what is clutch is they're most concerned about meeting the expectation of the guy or the woman who signs their check.
Hmm.
And if they can't meet that expectation, they don't get to have a job. And
Yeah.
in this economy right now, where it's an employer's market, it's a
Hmm.
scary place to be if you feel like you could lose your job because you can't meet that expectation.
Yeah.
So, setting the right expectation and communicating about it is 90% of effective communication. The
Yeah.
other 10% is just doing it,
Yeah.
right? Saying that I've got this, I'm going to do it, I'm going to drive it,
Hmm.
and all the things.
Hmm.
And so, what I often find is that where there's a lack of clarity, there is an unset expectation
Yeah.
that can only equal unmet.
Yeah.
And then unmet expectations, just as I'm sure you've experienced at this stage of life,
Yeah.
lead to the biggest word none of us want to say, but we all feel it, and that's disappointment,
Yeah.
right? And so when we get to that place, I get to work with companies like Savvy and Cadence as a way to help them do that in a fractional component where maybe they're working with larger organizations,
Hmm.
teams that are, 50 to $100 million a year, trying
Hmm.
to get to scale, trying to solve those culture and people problems to get better processes and product services delivered.
Hmm.
And then on the other side of what I do is working directly with those business owners that are 8 to 15 million who can't afford to even play with a Cadence or a Savvy.
Hmm.
And they say, hey, how can you work with us to get some of that right?
Yeah.
And so we cut out some of the costs there for them as well. So it's a both and from where I sit, and it's exciting because you get both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
And I think the experience of working with larger organizations
Hmm.
informs the smaller organizations so
Yeah.
that they then get to have advantage of knowing where they could go in 3 to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
If we do things in this way.
Yeah.
And it's important too because a lot of small businesses have the DNA component really well. And
Hmm.
so when we take that to the larger organizations, then we're focused on how we maintain a healthy culture and a good DNA. Because remember, people like us do things like this. I
Yeah.
didn't write it, I didn't say it, but it's a great mantra, right?
Yeah.
And so if we want to replicate the DNA of what we're doing inside an organization, we have to establish that people like us, Phoebe, do things like this.
Hmm.
And that could be a really good thing, it could be a really bad
There
thing,
you
right?
go.
If it's an unhealthy organization,
Hmm.
you may say, I'm out. That's not my jam. That's not where I am core values. I'm not
Hmm.
aligned.
Hmm.
I'm out and I'm going to go find something else.
Yeah.
But again, not having the clarity around what that looks like is
Hmm.
one of the greatest disservices that we can do to the people who show up every day to give us time out of their life in
Yeah.
order to help us accomplish our vision.
Yeah. Makes sense. I agree with you totally. So, what does your typical day looks like for you?
Oh my gosh. There is no typical. I mean, quite honestly, it's at the beginning of the week is a lot of the administrative things, right? So I use EOS as one of the frameworks. It's a
Okay.
lever I pull to help organizations stay organized. There's several out there.
Hmm.
You could look at Rockefeller Habits, Scaling Up. You could look at Pinnacle, which is kind of a deeper dive on the people than
Hmm.
EOS kind of takes things. But
Yeah.
EOS is a really good place to start if an organization, particularly a startup, isn't
Hmm.
using a framework.
Yeah.
It's clear, it's repeatable, it's easy to make accountable.
Yeah.
And I like the cadence and the rhythm that it offers for a leadership team.
Okay.
And so typically we'll have a series of L10s at the early part of the week. That is like the 90-minute meeting for the executive team. There's a very
Hmm.
specific agenda we go through, and we're basically taking the work we did at our quarterly or annual offsite, and
Hmm.
we're talking about how we're accomplishing that work in bite-sized increments within that meeting. And
Yeah.
we're dealing with issues and things that come up, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times there's that. If I'm starting with a new client, part of my
Hmm.
process is to build a language for culture, a vernacular where we can talk about things and deal with confrontation in a non-offensive way. At least as non-offensive as possible, right? Some
Yeah.
people still get offended regardless, but conflict is emotional and we
Hmm.
shouldn't pretend like it's not. And we also shouldn't pretend like our teams have the best emotional awareness
Hmm.
and they're ready to do that.
Yeah.
Hurt people. And
Yeah.
a lot of people have unresolved issues that they've never been led through dealing with.
Yeah.
So I take folks, oftentimes start with the leadership, even maybe just the CEO at first. We
Mm-hmm.
build an awareness, and there's a few tools that I use around that. And a couple of those are DISC and Enneagram. And I have a process for how I implement those as a way to build a vernacular. So the
Mm-hmm.
DISC is really helpful in helping us to see other people and communication styles. The Enneagram is really helpful in understanding what motivates us as an individual and
Mm-hmm.
coming to terms with what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different subtypes, and then there are fears and there are restraints and all these things that pile into that. But at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, we have to be honest about who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to believe people that when they tell us who they are, that is
Mm-hmm.
who they are.
Yeah.
Again, not my idea, not my concept, but it's a truth that I've learned to live by, that when someone tells you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
So when they're showing it in their actions and their attitude and the
Mm-hmm.
way they talk about things,
Mm-hmm.
believe that that's who they are.
Yeah.
And that may not be the type of DNA or the culture that you want to build in
Yeah.
your organization. So you
Mm-hmm.
need to address that head on, right? So I'd say a good part of the week is spent around those types of things. There's a few groups that I'm working with right now where I'm heavy on the marketing side with
Okay.
them and helping them figure out what it looks like to take a physical product and turn it into a digital product to reach a
Mm-hmm.
larger audience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun. That's kind of like getting to eat candy at dinner.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff is exciting to me because you're talking about what does it take to shape human behavior,
Yeah.
right? And it's exciting because I don't always get into that type of work. A lot of my background is spent in that area of software development and building SaaS products to create different behaviors and positive outcomes for people. And so anytime I get to do that kind of work, it's really exciting. But there's a marketing component. So when you go back to the well-rounded COO, there's a financial component, there's a people component, there's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely a process component, and then there's the marketing component as well as to
Mm-hmm.
how we look at the services that we provide. And I
Yeah.
hate the idea of saying, oh, I'm a Swiss Army.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the woods and there's a tree that has fallen on your leg, the last
Mm-hmm.
thing you want is a Swiss Army knife to remove that tree, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want something that is
Yes.
dedicated to being able to move it. It's
Mm-hmm.
either a large lever or it could be that it is a chainsaw. It could be anything, but you don't want a Swiss Army knife to cut through the
Yeah.
trunk of a tree, right? So I
Possible.
hate when people are like, oh, I'm a Swiss Army knife,
Mm-hmm.
jack of all trades, master of none.
Mm-hmm.
That's garbage. That means you don't know yourself well enough to know where you're best, right?
Yeah.
And so those are four areas that could expand almost indefinitely, right? If we
Mm-hmm.
spent time there. But those four areas are areas where I find most of the time I'm able to galvanize teams and enable them towards success if we can
Okay.
address those things. But again, it fits into the people, process, and product part of how we flow those ideas.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things fit there. And
Yeah.
if a true COO, an integrator, a fractional, however you want to refer to it, doesn't have a vision to those things, then they're cheating themselves out
Yeah.
of an opportunity to help other people, right? And so I would
Mm-hmm.
encourage anyone who might be listening, if they're thinking through how do I further develop myself in that way, think in those types of areas, the finance, the people, the process, and the marketing. Get a good grip on those things because oftentimes vision is going
Mm-hmm.
to impact all of those
All
things at
three.
once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's going to have a huge impact on the organization.
Yeah. I agree. Totally. I agree. So, what is the major shift you're seeing in your industry right now? The major shift you're seeing right now in the industry?
What are some shifts that I'm saying in the
Yeah.
industry right
Mhm.
now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Major, yeah.
Uh, I mean, I know AI is kind of like the dirty four-letter word, right? But in truth, it's not. Like it's like with anything. I mean, when we started producing combustion engine cars and the electric car, which there was one before Tesla, believe it or not, people, there was the EV1 that came out in 2001 and GM destroyed that. And then before that, years before that, there was an electric car in the early 1900s, but we couldn't make them fast enough and it wasn't cost effective enough. And so
Yeah.
Ford won, right? And so when you go to the assembly line and you've got the Ford car being made and everybody has a job and sort of the beginning of the industrial revolution and Western culture and all these things happening, people aren't riding horses to do things. All of a sudden things are getting faster. We're less patient for things. Now we can deliver mail by vehicle rather than a horse. What happens to the Pony Express? It becomes a
Mhm.
post office. Like all you see this natural progression of things, right?
Mhm.
And that is what technology does when it comes
Yeah.
into a place. When we now have food that can be delivered in 5 minutes or less, it's no surprise we see
Mhm.
a rise in child obesity or
Mhm.
diabetes among adults, right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
in order for that food to be done so quickly, it has a lot of bad things put into it, right?
Yeah.
And so now you're going to see an increase in healthcare and opportunities there, right? And so all of these things, there's an ebb and a flow and a reason to all. It's a cause and effect.
Mhm.
With AI, what I'm seeing it shift in the market is there's now a dependency that if you're not an expert in AI, which by the way, has only been something that really the larger market could get into over the last 2.5 years anyway. And
Mhm.
now we're expecting people to be experts, right? What other field do you want somebody to have only been doing something for 2.5 years before we can say they're an expert?
Mhm.
I mean, if you've read anything by Malcolm Gladwell, you got to get at least those 10,000 hours in, right? So I don't want my doctor only spending 2.5 years doing what he's doing if he's about to, or my surgeon is about to open me up and do something big, right? I
Mhm.
want to know that he's been doing this a lot longer and a lot more experience.
Yeah.
And so when we look at it from that perspective, like I just see an impatience in the industry across the board, both with companies that are looking for AI-driven leadership and people who understand it. And if we're honest with ourselves, it's changing so fast right now, and there's a bubble we're building that's going to pop at some point, and then it's gonna come back and reconcile itself. That's what a capitalistic market does. And this bubble is building so big, and we're putting so much money into the research of it. Nobody's really making money on it right now in the way it's being perceived. There's a lot of losses. If you look at cap tables, there's a lot of losses across the board. So I think what's going to happen is that the industry is changing in a way that we expect everybody to have all this knowledge and to be able to do all this stuff. Well, if we keep applying the pressure and saying that that's where the demand is, then people are going to respond to the demand and go so much towards that that they're going to forget how to think for themselves. And then we're going to have this pullback of like, now we need creative thinkers. We need people who are critical and solving problems. And now we're going to honor that, right? And so again, what gets rewarded gets repeated. And so then we're going to start to see a resurgence of that. We're already starting to see the way that Gen Z pushes back on workforce leaders, right? They don't want somebody who comes in and says, I've been here 30 years and this is how we do it. They don't care. They want to see that you care about them because they've been raised to think that the world is about them and meeting their needs, and you have to be empathetic, right? And I've got a couple Gen Zers in my house. And so it is this mindset that you lean into me. And whether or not you agree with it, think it's right or wrong,
Mhm.
it is that generation, right? Boomers had a different mindset, millennials had a different mindset. I'm in that category. And Gen Zers have got this mindset, and then we've got the alpha generation that's going to be ball busters. Like they're just going to go get it because they're not waiting around on anybody. But you see these things, and so again, I'm starting to see people lean into AI as a way to substitute communication and connection. And we're missing that component where we really understand each other. And we can have conversations like this where we are willing to ask tough questions or engage about ideas that are not our own as a way to understand each other better. And so we get to that place where we're not cognizant of what the other person needs, then
Mhm.
we start to lose effectiveness in each other's lives.
Okay.
And so I'm seeing that curve already start to happen. We're already seeing startups pop up who are centered around using AI to build flourishing human connection rather than to do the exact opposite, right? We saw this with social media and depression rates among teens and all these things that started to kind of come up. So there's this backlash to no social media. We got to take away being able to see how many people like my post, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, did that really solve the problem? No. And I think honestly, Phoebe, at its core, to get philosophical and I'll end with this, is that we as people desire human connection and
Yeah.
we desire to find purpose.
Yeah.
And we most readily discover purpose when we invest in someone else.
I
And
agree.
if we're constantly absorbed in a system that makes it all about us, we will live a life that is completely unfulfilled.
I agree. Perfectly agree with you. So what's your current what's working well for you right now and what's been
Yeah.
frustrating?
Yeah, what's working well for me is that I show up for people.
Okay.
If you show up on time
Mm-hmm.
and if you show up with integrity, you've already raised the bar for the rest of the world. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many people last week ghosted me, and I was doing something to help them.
Oh.
And they completely ghosted me, free of charge, wasn't going to charge anything. It wasn't even a sales pitch to go with it, just wanted to make a connection and build.
Um,
And it was something they had asked about. 3 or 4 of those happened last week. And it's really frustrating because you set aside the time, you make it a
yeah.
priority, and you prepare, right? So it is working well to show up for people because you make connections like this. But on the other side, what is frustrating is when people don't show up for you.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's true. Well, I'll say this and it'll be offensive to some, but if we've all been in traffic, we understand it's true. Like at their core, um, people they're worthy of being invested in, but generally we go around the world and we experience things and we think to ourselves, man, people suck. Like they let me down, they cut me off in traffic, they jumped line, they cheated me out of that dollar. I got fired and I wasn't supposed to, right? Like we walk around and we carry that, but at the end of the day, sure, people suck on the surface, but they are worth it. They're absolutely worth investing in, and leadership is hard, right?
Yeah.
And it's important that we understand what someone is going through and the
Yeah.
influences on their life, because oftentimes that shapes why we think they suck. And at the end of the day, if we were to understand that better, which is part of that EQ training I do, then we're more empathetic to it. Not in a toxic way where we condone bad
Yeah.
behavior, but we're more empathetic into understanding and trying to support them.
I agree. Thank you about that. So how do you currently measure success in your maybe savvy strategic partner or your other client you deal with? How do you measure success in your services?
Yeah, so there's success for clients and there's
Mhm.
success for me. So success for the clients is we're hitting the results. We've got our scorecard up, and that's the thing we're looking at. We're driving that. That's one component. We're looking at, do people still want to work here? Do they still align to the vision? Do they still like it, right? Do they still get it? That's the culture piece that connects. And then what are customers saying about us? They'll
Okay.
tell you, and
Yeah.
they'll tell you right away what they think and feel, right? So for the client, that's what it looks like. For me, it's more emotional and spiritual. Am I spending time working on myself and developing myself better? And if I am, then I've given myself the margin. Am I spending time with my family? Because my real legacy is being built with my children and my
Yeah.
wife. That's the thing that goes beyond me, right? And it's a shame that it's taken this long to understand the value of that. But early in my career, I would work 60 hours a week, wouldn't think twice about it. Had a business that I had started with a friend from college and poured everything into building that up and growing it into something even better than where we started. And when I look back on that, I cheated my wife out of time that we could have spent together,
Yeah.
right? Because I was so driven to make a thing work that I forgot why I was making it work. I
Yeah.
wasn't making it work for the customer. I was making it work so that I could take care of her.
Yeah.
And now my mindset's completely different. I'm not the provider. I'm the steward of what's been provisioned for me. And so
Okay.
that's a much different mindset, you know?
Yeah. Oh, awesome. So, which metrics are you most focused on improving in your day-to-day or strategy?
Yeah. So for the clients, I mean, we're looking at on-time delivery. Are we getting the things done for the people we serve in the time that we said? We're looking at attrition. We're looking at revenue goals. We're looking at optimizing production hours, right? Are we
Mhm.
able to 3x this individual? So if they cost us $75,000 and then burden salary is somewhere around, I don't know, 92,000, right? We should be thinking about people in that way, not just the salary we pay them, but all the other expenditures that go with it. Are we able to, come close to 270 as a gross revenue on that individual? And if
Mhm.
we're not, how do we fix that? Because if we're talking about scaling an organization, we got to make sure that first of all we're sustainable. We can cover the cost of everybody being here and
Mhm.
then some, right? We want to be saving towards that rainy day. And then once the rainy day is saved up, are we able to scale these things? So always looking at revenue from that perspective. Revenue will fix a lot of sales. It'll fix a lot of sales and operational problems. It will not fix your people problems.
Yeah.
It'll actually create bigger people problems. So
Yeah.
we're looking at those things. And then lastly, around clients is sort of customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
Like how happy are they with what's going on, right? Do they see the value of what we're doing? Because if they don't, then we either need to repivot or pivot the plan, or maybe I'm not the right fit for where they need to go anymore. And
Yeah.
that's okay if that's the conversation because we're there for them, right? And at the end of the day, if you take care of the customer, you don't have to worry about where the money's coming from.
You're right. I agree. Yeah. So, where do you want your services? And now, I'm not going to say strategy, savvy strategic partner or the other because I know you serve. You're a fractional leader.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So, where do you want your to be in the next 12 months with these your company clients?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Mm.
In the next 12 months, I hope that I'm still getting to have an impact in the areas that are most effective. Now, that's kind of vague, but what I mean
Mm.
is that clients are still saying, "Hey, I need somebody like Courtney to help me do this thing." Right? Or I don't know what the thing is that I need to do, but
Mhm.
I heard him on a thing or interacted with him at this event, and like, golly, I just need somebody who can help us get to clarity like that
Yeah.
because we are struggling to figure it out. And the
Mhm.
truth is that most companies don't realize it until it's too late, but their culture sucks. And when their culture sucks, profits start to flatline,
Mhm.
plateau, and then they drop, right?
Yeah.
And then you start losing people because you can't afford them or because they see the writing on the wall and then they're gone. And now
Mhm.
our culture shifted from 2 to 3% to like 10 to 15%. And it's not the same company. The visionaries wake up thinking, what happened to the thing that I loved that I thought I was building, right? Now, if we get ahead of that and we say, okay, well, we're going to shift culture back towards sort of our center of gravity, and that means investing in people
Mhm.
in a way that drives our core values central to the vision, then we really get to get back to our thinking. We build a healthier culture, and then people give their best because this truth is valid no matter where you go. People no longer work for you, all right? Like business owners, CEOs, I don't care how big
Mhm.
your company is, please hear me out. People no longer work for you. They work for themselves.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is they're showing up for a paycheck to cover their retirement later when they're done with your job,
Mhm.
to cover their mortgage, to cover their car payment, to pay their kids' tuition, to save up for that vacation they promised their wife they're going to take. They are showing up for that. That is not in your core values or your mission statement, right? And occasionally you will find people who are, I'm here to end human trafficking and I'm here and I want to be a part of an organization that does that. So if there's a company out there who is striving towards that, who needs somebody like me, please call me because I would love to be a part of helping you end human trafficking. But
Yeah.
the point in that is it's rare that we find people who show up for work because they're that driven about the mission. And that's the biggest mistake I see business owners making is they assume everybody else is there for the same reason they are. And the truth is they're just not. And that's okay. Let's recognize it and let's incentivize them in the ways that communicate best for them so that they will give us their best towards
Okay.
accomplishing that mission.
I agree. Yeah, okay. Are there any specific KPIs you're tracking with those your company clients on how well you're dealing with them or how, what you can do with them or
Yeah, so one of those is return on investment, right? So
okay.
if they spend this much with me, did I help improve their gross in this
Okay.
percentage or their net in this percentage? Have we reduced attrition by this much? And what is the
Mhm.
reduction of that attrition? What would it have cost them had they spent it, right? Like if you have to spend all this money to go find other people because you got a lot of people leaving, then that's
Mhm.
expensive. But if I can show them like, hey, just working with me for 6 months is going to reduce your attrition costs by $100,000, and we're going to increase revenue by 500,000, and your team's going to love you for it, and I'm only going to charge you 150.
Mm.
Well, then why would you not do that? It's a great return, right? I
Yeah.
don't know if that's actually the return metric, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like
Yeah.
those are the types of things we're looking at. So
Yeah.
it's anything that we can tie an expense or an increased value to that's a
Absolutely.
black and white metric. Otherwise, it's just a shift in the wind and it could
Yeah.
be anybody's influence, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. If you had a magic wand to fix just one thing
Hmm.
that is holding you back or slowing you down, what would that one thing be?
Yeah, you're like the 10th person to ask me that question in the last month. I listen. This may be a little bit outside the context of anybody who is listening and where they're at. I have slowly and begrudgingly come to learn that my life has purpose beyond me, and as long as I have breath in my lungs, I'm here to serve a purpose and a calling
Mhm.
to faith in Christ that is beyond anything that I could do. Right. So. The magic wand scenario, I used to approach it from a very selfish mentality of like, oh, I would have a retirement that never runs out, or I'd never have to work again, and so I could just go do the things I'm passionate about and all these things, right? But at the end of the day, like this is not my home, and there's always going to be tension here.
Yeah.
We're intended for more beyond this. I think everyone is. We're designed for purpose and on purpose.
Yeah.
So now I look at the magic wand scenario of it would be just bending ears towards truth. Right? If I could bend ears towards truth and they would receive what that truth is, that would be amazing. Because then how much greater could the impact be if we
Mm.
all knew the truth and lived it, right? And didn't live in fear, but lived in truth of understanding why we were created and what we were intended for. I think that would shape a lot more lives than, I don't have to worry about retirement. I can go be a photographer and, well, all of that stuff.
Okay. There's something you said about is it a platform you're using for your company clients, something like EOS and all that? Is it a platform or a software? What is it all about?
Yeah, so entrepreneur operating system.
Mhm.
Years ago, a guy named Gino Wickham was running family business, realized that his family was having a hard time getting
Mhm.
along and doing the things they needed to do to scale the organization. And he
Mhm.
just thought, man, what if we had a simple playbook that everyone
Okay.
could understand?
Yeah.
And we could run that playbook with accountability and intentionality, and we
Mhm.
could scale growth, right? Get sustainable and scale growth. And so EOS is just one of those frameworks it's pretty simple to pick up the book. The book's called Traction. There's another one called What the heck is traction? It's kind of the Cliff Notes version. And then there's a couple narratives around it that kind of draw in the points of principles of traction, like Get a Grip. There's another book called Rocket Fuel that's about the relationship between visionary and integrator. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that EOS does is it outlines most CEOs are visionaries, have big vision for where they want to go. Integrators are kind of the lead balloon, not their term mine, but kind of lead balloon to that dream. So somewhere we got to balance the two. And that's where that idea of vision and strategy and execution in the middle really comes from, is that somewhere we're going to figure out the difference of how we get there. And so what I love about EOS is it calls out that relationship between visionary and integrator and the importance of what it is. And when that relationship is dialed in, it's like rocket fuel to the moon.
Yeah.
You can have the biggest vision, you're going to get there. So EOS is just another framework. It has 6 components to it. If anyone goes to EOS Worldwide, you can tap into all of the integrators who are certified and who are listed there as a way to get an implementer or an integrator. Implementer is somebody who comes and helps you
Yeah.
through 90-day rhythm and helps you get adjusted to the framework. An integrator is more akin to like a COO.
Let me cut you in. Does it have any downside to it, or is it perfect? Does it work perfectly? Is there any limitations with it? Mhm.
Oh man, if there was just one thing in this world that worked perfectly, like we'd all be rich, right?
All
Uh,
right.
I mean, for the most part, as far as systems go, I think it's one of those that is really easy for people to adopt. It's very clear
Yeah.
to understand. It's very accountable, so it's
Yeah.
easy for the team to see where they're having an impact and where they're not.
Okay.
The one slight that I have against it, and I don't know if that's even the right way to say it, but the one area where I think it's the weakest is
Okay.
really around the people development component.
Okay.
People are so much more than understanding if they get it, want it, have the capacity to do it, which is one of the tools within it they use. There's a few other tools as well when you're looking at there's a delegate and elevate exercise to understand, like, are you doing work in areas where you're not gifted or don't get energy? We need to shift that, right? Shift your priorities, and then you delegate that other work to people who are gifted in that. So all of those things are there, but what I've learned is through emotional training, emotional awareness training, you're able to build much stronger communications between people and a
Mm-hmm.
connection to what is real and
Yeah.
helping them navigate conflict. So I think EOS doesn't help people navigate the emotional conflict well. We can talk about business conflict, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all there on the board. But the emotional conflict, it doesn't really lean into that. And so there's a lot of growth that could happen in that direction. But people like John Maxwell have a lot of really great resources. Patrick Lencioni is another one. He's got Five Dysfunctions of a Team. Really good resources that I think are great components to supplement where EOS doesn't spend a lot of time. But that said, I think EOS spends the right time on the right things.
Okay, thank you, Courtney. It's very, very nice talking to you.